So Brian Mbeumo is now officially a Manchester United player, and he has joined up with the United squad as they have touched down in the US and settled into their hotel already in Chicago ahead of the US Summer Series tour. And it's just wanted to do a quick video giving my thoughts on what I'm looking forward to ahead of the pre-season and what I expect to see. So obviously, look, I mean, just touching on the transfers first, obviously excited to see Matthias Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, how they settle into the team. Obviously Cunha's been there a couple of weeks now at this rate, and Mbeumo's obviously only had the one training session with the squad, so he'll obviously need a little bit longer to settle. And I think it's important that we got those two done, given how the so-called bomb squad, or the Carrington 5, if you want to call them that have been left behind, you know, and Garnacho, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, and obviously Malacia. But 4 of those 5 players can play in those 10 positions. So obviously we're very weak in that area, which is why Cunha and Mbeumo were priority signings before pre-season. And look, we still need a striker, still need a defensive midfielder, possibly a left back. You know, we got Diego Leon in, still only a kid. He's going to need time to develop. Dorgu is still only young as well, needs a bit of time, but he showed signs of what he can do last season. And I think in terms of pre-season, obviously you want to see all these kids get minutes, show their potential. Diego Leon looks like a 25-year-old man. He does not look 18 years old. So there's definitely a lot of raw potential there. And I think that's, you know, that seems to be the theme since Ineos came in. It's buying young, promising talent, and then it's just a case of developing it. But you need to have the experience, a mix of experience within that as well, which is where the likes of Bruno, Casemiro come in. In terms of pre-season, then what I'm looking forward to, obviously, as I said, is seeing how Cunha and Mbeumo develop within that squad and in that dynamic. What way we're going to be setting up. At the moment, Highland is still our only striker, which is our only out-and-out striker. Obviously, we have a couple of players that can play, say, the false 9 position. So we kind of have Xerxes that can play there. Mainu has played there in the past. Bruno can play there. Not ideal. You'd want that out-and-out number 9 in there. So it'll be interesting to see how we set up in pre-season, because that will likely determine whether we will sign a striker or not. If we're setting up with, say, Xerxes in a false 9 with Cunha and Mbeumo going forward, almost like a 3-4-1-2 as opposed to the 2-1 that we've seen from Amorim in the past. You know, is that going to be a sign that we're not signing a striker this summer, or we don't envisage a striker coming in? If we spend most of pre-season playing with Amorim's traditional 3-4-2-1, then I think it's likely that we will see a striker come in. Whether it be, you know, Ollie Watkins, there's a few names going around. Ollie Watkins, you have Jamie Vardy's another one. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, there's a couple of names there. Benjamin Sesko is an obvious one as well. Out of all of them, and I think one that would fit the mould the most is possibly, it's probably Ollie Watkins, being honest. That son now is, but it's probably Ollie Watkins. Given what we've signed already, we've signed Prem-proven players. Yes, Calvert-Lewin is Prem-proven, so is Jamie Vardy, but I think they're on the downturn of their careers, whereas Ollie Watkins is arguably still at his peak. 29 years old, he can still do a job, he knows what a goal is. He would, again, he's Prem-proven. He would come in, he would be a stopgap signing. He wouldn't necessarily be a signing for the future. He would be a stopgap signing until we get another young, established striker. Maybe Sesko in a couple of years, 2-3 years time, when he's got a bit more experience. Maybe he makes a move now to a slightly bigger club, and then we go get him in 2 or 3 years. That's what I see. So if we're lining up in pre-season in that 2-1, then I think it's very likely that we're going to sign a striker this summer. Then you're looking at the midfield with Cunha and Mbeumo there. Obviously that's going to mean Bruno dropping back. Then you're looking, who's his partner? Is it Mainoo, Ugarte, Casemiro, Toby Collier? So you're looking at all those options that we have, and a lot of those players will likely depend on who we're facing in the league. Casemiro obviously has the experience, and I think playing that one game a week will benefit him. I definitely think at the start of the season, especially given that the first league game of the season is against Arsenal, I definitely see us going with a more defensive-minded midfield. So it'll likely be Bruno and Casemiro. But you still want to see Toby Collier get minutes. He obviously, he had a decent pre-season last summer, but you wanted him to make that kind of step up. He didn't get many minutes during the season, so you want to see him make that step up, get more minutes, and fight for a place in the side. Arguably with Mainoo as well. He should be the first name on the sheet. But again, another player he's still young, he played a lot of minutes. He's not fully developed into the player that we need in that position. So it'd be interesting to see. And then obviously look, you have your left wing back options. You have Patrick Dorgu, Diego Leon. At the moment, that's all we have. Harry Amass is going out on loan. So we arguably need strengthening in that area of the pitch. However, you would like to see Patrick Dorgu nail down that position. He showed, as I mentioned earlier, he showed potential last season. He showed glimpses. He still needs to develop a bit more. Obviously, he's still only a kid. Your right wing back position then, for me, I think it's a straight shootout between Ahmad and Dalot. And it will depend on how we're setting up. If we're going attack minded, it's going to be Ahmad. If we're looking at more defensively, I think maybe you're looking at Diogo Dalot. Our back three, we're fairly solid there as well. We have plenty of options. Lenny Yaro, De Ligt, Maguire, Aiden Heaven, Martinez is yet to come back from injury. Luke Shaw is an option there. Whether he's good enough anymore is debatable. He's one of those players that we arguably should have signed couple of seasons ago, but the high wages is scuppered any chances of that happening. But look, we've plenty of options right across the pitch. We need strengthening in a couple of positions. Goalkeeper then is another one. Onan is injured, so Bain Deere is likely going to start. He's going to feature heavy, I'd say, in pre-season. But you know, is he good enough to be the number one? Onan has probably lost a lot of faith from fans over the last season. Made a lot of errors. Made a lot of saves as well, it has to be said. But there's a lot of those saves then that have led to goals. He's palming the ball back into a dangerous area, whereas he should be palming it away to the side or behind for corner. You know, we're linked with another couple of keepers. Emi Martinez is a potential one. Apparently we've explored that option already. Approached Villa about a loan move. It was rejected straight away. There's another young kid, Sen Lamens, I think is how you pronounce his name. Another promising young kid. You know, I haven't seen much of him, but what I've seen, he looks like a decent backup option and potentially one that could, you know, that could push Onana for that number one spot. He's good at claiming crosses, good at commanding his area, and like I said, he's young. Not that, you know, not that age is that plays as much of a factor in the goalkeeping position as, say, a left wing back or a striker. But look, there's plenty of options there. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to pre-season. Plenty of things to look forward to. I think Cunha and Mbeumo coming in is going to transform our forward line, and it's just going to be interesting to see how they settle into the squad. You know, they are two of the best players in the league last season in terms of goals and assists and chance creation, so arguably with the two of them in the squad, Hyland should, you know, get more chances than what he has, but at the same time some of Hyland's decision making has been questionable as well, in terms of the runs he makes, the movement. You know, but yeah, look, there's plenty to look forward to this pre-season, so I'm excited for the season ahead. Obviously, look, we still have to make some signings, strengthen further, and literally just raise the floor of the squad. A lot of that's going to depend on sales, which we seem to be getting. It's obviously slow. Wages and those contracts are playing a massive factor in trying to move on the players that we have, that we need to move on. But it looks like we're getting there. Rashford's gone to Barcelona on loan. They have a €30 million obligation to buy next season, and they're going to cover 100% of his wages. Not ideal that it's only a loan, but it's a positive that they're going to cover 100% of his wages. Gets those high wages off our books. Sancho is apparently close to a Juventus move. I know David Ornstein, I think, rebuked that, all right, saying that they're not close at all. But look, he's in talks with a couple of clubs. Anthony has obviously performed well, so I think we'll definitely move some players on, and then it's just a case of getting in the players that we want, and which seems to be Prem proven. You know, the Premier League is where we massively underperformed last season, obviously finishing 15, so that needs to improve, and it seems like that's what Ineos are planning on doing, getting Prem proven players in, and you know, try and finishing higher up that table, getting back into the Champions League positions for next season, which will help us strengthen the squad further next summer. But yeah, plenty of positives ahead, plenty to look forward to into the pre-season, and looking forward to the season starting.